Escalation has many behemoths, but there is one deadly shock behemoth that sits on top. So today, let's learn how to take on Malkarion in this week's behemoth breakdown. Before we start this climb to the top, here are a few things you may want to know. When trying to reach to the top to hunt Malkarion, one thing you might want to consider is what type of amp crystal perks you may want to have. If you're confident in your dodging abilities, I would focus on damage-based buffs, but if you're struggling on staying alive, I suggest picking up perks such as Breath of Life and Torrent Shield. Other things to consider is what lantern to use. Based off my experience, Koshai's lantern is especially useful for this hunt. Not only does it do Terra damage, which is Malkarion's elemental weakness, but its lifesteal ability pairs really well with Breath of Life and Torrent Shield, providing you with good healing capabilities without having to only rely on healing items. And that's not even the best part. This lantern's hold ability allows you to escape from the powerful jaws of Malkarion that many slayers fear. Another thing to know is how to mount the Behemoth. This mechanic is very important to use since this allows you to deal massive damage to Malkarion. In order to mount, use the small Aether vents that will spawn as you hunt the Behemoth. Each vent is a one-time use, so make sure you hook onto the Behemoth before you hit the ground. Once you're on, your stamina will start depleting and each attack you use will further drain it. If you run out, your Slayer will be thrown off the Behemoth. The trick to prolong your time on the Behemoth is to disengage and rehook onto the Behemoth. Not only does this help you from taking damage and being thrown off, but it also helps regain a portion of stamina as well. And depending on the part you focus on will determine the kind of outcome you might have. Aim for the head for lots of stagger damage, the body for basic damage, and the tail for tail breaks. Another tip is after a successful boop or stagger and the Behemoth is on the ground, Malkarion will eventually start to look around. This is your cue to step away from the Behemoth, otherwise it will hit you as it gets back up. Malkarion also has an Aether Charge state and an Enraged state. Entering its Aether Charge state, Malkarion will build up energy and release a massive electrical explosion. During this state, the use of Storm Rush will increase and the Behemoth will be able to use the move Shock Bomb. When it exits out of its Aether Charge, Malkarion will quickly charge up its body and blast off into the sky. If you haven't noticed already, this explosion goes off much earlier, so get ready to dodge if you're within range. You can also tell it's leaving this state by the way it charges up compared to when it enters in it. Onto its Enraged form, the Behemoth will fly up and enter its Enraged state. Watch out for the tail since this will hit you if you're nearby it. And to make things a little bit harder, the Behemoth's attack speed will increase. Moving on to the attacks, here are the moves you will encounter. Quickly hovering towards the Slayer with its mouth open, Malkarion will chomp down on the Slayer, throw them into the air, and smack them back down with its tail. This grapple is Malkarion's deadliest move and should be avoided at all cost. If a Slayer has been captured, you can break them free if you quickly deal enough damage. If unable to do so, be sure to watch out when the Slayer gets smacked back down to the ground, because the impact from the Slayer hitting the ground will deal massive damage. And don't forget, the Koshai Lantern hold ability is your ticket to escaping this move. Swinging its tail in a full circle, this move in most cases will require you to dodge to safely avoid this attack. Not only does it cover a wide area, but Malkarion will follow up with another tail swing shortly after. The timing between the two tail spins can vary depending on the state the Behemoth is in. The best way to figure this timing out is to look for the moment when Malkarion starts to turn its head as it begins its spin. Spreading its wings and then coating itself with lightning, Malkarion will charge the Slayer. This move is fast, but if timed correctly, you can interrupt the Behemoth. If you prefer avoiding the move instead, you can dodge through it or quickly run off to the sides. Pointing one of its wings down, Malkarion will drag its wing across the ground, causing multiple shock explosions along the way. After using this move, it will leave a small Aether vent that you can use to mount the Behemoth. Raising a wing up, Malkarion will swing its body, sweeping the ground with its tail and one of its wings. At a distance, this can be a tricky move to avoid, but if you're up close, you can dodge towards the Behemoth to quickly get out of its range. A move only used when a Slayer is on Malkarion, the Behemoth will drop down on one of its sides to knock the player off. It's an easy move to read, so jump off as soon as it begins to drop down. Those on the ground attacking the Behemoth should keep in mind that this move can possibly be used if a friend is on the Behemoth. Raising both of its wings in the air, the Behemoth will fire 3 shock balls at the player. Each ball tries to predict your movement, so do your best to outmaneuver them and dodge when necessary. Releasing a big ball of shock that slowly follows the Slayer, this ball will eventually hit the ground and create a huge explosion. You can run out of its range, but in the event you are unable to do so, a well-timed dodge will be needed. Similar to how Razakiri drops down, Malkarion will come crashing down and crush Slayers that are unable to avoid it. This attack is fairly easy to dodge, but staying on the outside is always a safe bet. Also watch out when Malkarion taunts and when it exits out of its enraged state. Both of these moves are much faster and will require you to quickly dodge if you are nearby the Behemoth. Once you have slain the Behemoth, here is all the materials you can acquire. Hopefully all the information I have given you will aid you in your next Malkarion encounter. If you want to support me, enter Enzek as your supporter creator code the next time you make a purchase either from Dauntless's in-game store or Epic's. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope to see you in Dauntless.